All right, so I would like to welcome all of you to this new event on supply chain visibility. My name is Max Henry from the Global Supply Chain Council. So as some of you know, we run those events on a regular basis. So supply chain visibility has always been a very hot topic for a lot of our members and the companies which are part of the Global Supply Chain Council. So we're going to talk about it today. We brought together an interesting panel of industry practitioners. And so just to let you know, and just to remind all of you who are joining again, that this session, this discussion will last around 55 minutes. So if you have another thing to do at 5 p.m. Hong Kong, Singapore, no worries. We'll wrap up this discussion before the end of the hour. You can also make use of the Q&A button, which is located at the bottom right corner of your screen. So if you have any questions at any time, you can go ahead, type it, and then we'll prioritize those questions as they come, and hopefully you will be able to interact with our panelists today. So without further ado, I'd like to first get started by letting each of the panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Roxanne. Go ahead, welcome you.
Welcome as well from my side to all of you, and thanks, Max, for having me today. As maybe you can hear from my accent, I'm French, so actually based now in France after about 20 years in Asia between Shanghai and Singapore. In my last role, I was leading a global supply chain in the semiconductor industry end-to-end. And now back home, transform myself into a supply chain consultant and a professor of supply chain in one of the business schools. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Roxanne. Okay, next we have Massimo. Welcome, Massimo. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Max. Good afternoon, everybody. Massimo. I'm connected from Amsterdam at the moment. I'm the Integrated Business Planning Director for AkzoNobel, so paints and coating industry. Been here for years. Before that, I was covering roles for supply planning, strategic planning, and demand planning in DuPont for the European headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Looking forward for discussion as well, and thank you for having me, Max.
Great, thank you. All right, we have Tigger also joining. Yeah, go ahead, Tigger. Make sure to unmute. Okay, we'll come back to you, Tigger. I think you're still muted. Stephen, go ahead. Welcome you.
Hi, Max. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm Dr. Stephen Mawson from Sydney, Australia, but calling in from Melbourne tonight. And it's a pleasure to be here. I run Unchained Solutions. We're an advisory and facilitation firm based in Sydney, and we work with a range of companies to help them to address human rights and environmental risks, particularly with a special focus on modern slavery and human trafficking in particular. So we work with a range of companies. Our clients are listed companies as well as private, those that are in terms of the big end of town, as well as suppliers. So we see a broad spectrum of responses to this issue, and in terms of capability and capacity to address the risks using a variety of different types of platforms. So it's good to be part of the discussion tonight.
Thank you. All right, Tigger, you want to give it a try again?
Yeah, okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Tigor Namora. I'm based in Jakarta, Indonesia. Currently, I'm COO of Fuchs Indonesia. I'm taking care end-to-end operations, basically. I'm very happy to be here, and then looking forward to have discussions with all of you guys. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anil, welcome. Go ahead, yeah.
Hi, thanks, Max, for having me here. Hi, everybody. This is Anil Sharma. I'm Chief Supply Chain Officer, Genus Group, where we have smart metering and electrical goods like batteries, inverters. I've spent about 30 plus years in supply chain in Asia, Europe, and India, and lived and worked in China, lived and worked in Europe, and now in India, and all facets of supply chain. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, good to see you, Anil. All right, next is Tony. Welcome, Tony. Go ahead, yeah.
Many thanks, Max and colleagues and team. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on which part of the world you might be. Tony Domingo, lead the supply chain organization for the Oceanian region, currently based in Sydney. And very excited to be here with you and the team to share some different insight. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. All right. We have Sachin as well. Welcome, Sachin. Go ahead. Yeah, make sure to unmute.
Thank you, Max. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Sachin, currently based out of Bangalore in India, working with AkzoNobel, leading supply chain design practice globally. Prior to that, worked with organizations like Amazon, Accenture into various supply chain functions. Pretty excited to be here and look forward to the next 1 hour. Thank you.
Okay, I think we still have more, but some of the panelists disappeared. If you can switch back again your camera, that would be great. I think we're missing James as well. I'm not sure whether he's still with us. Anyway, well, you will get to meet the others as they come back. All right, so I want to again just quickly remind, because we had a number of people who have joined during the round of intros, that you can ask questions at any time using the Q&A button located at the bottom right of your screen. So if you have any question, if you have any comment, go ahead. We will then prioritize all your questions during the discussion. James is here. Hi, James, go ahead. Welcome. Yeah, if you can quickly introduce yourself.
Hey, Max. Yeah. Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, and very happy to be here. And also very excited to have the exchange with all of the colleagues from the world. And I'm coming from Schneider Electric. By the way, Schneider Electric is a French company and focused on those, energy management and automation products. And also, we're very proud that we are the #1 in the Gartner supply chain, ranking. And very happy to meet you.
Okay, great. Good to see you. Okay, so I think we're going to get started with a pretty simple question, because I think everybody has a different view and definition of supply chain visibility. So I'd like to ask each of you, what does supply chain visibility mean to you, and what is your definition of supply chain visibility according to your own company or your own experience? So maybe we'll get started with you, Roxanne, and then you can tell us what you think and what is your definition of it.
All right, so that's a broad topic. I think when I think about supply chain visibility, it's about first locating your stuff, whatever they are. So be it your raw material, your semi-finished goods, your finished goods, and whether they are in storage, whether they are in transit, or whether they are in manufacturing. So visibility to me always includes work in progress, particularly when you run external manufacturing. So when you don't manufacture by yourself, but you rely on a manufacturing partner, it's important to know what they are doing with materials they are producing on your behalf. Another element, so besides the completeness of your goods and your stuff, it's about bits in real time. So not that you are relying on the data from yesterday. And it has a purpose. So the purpose is to trigger the best decision, be it in terms of what to do next if you have to arrange an urgent shipment, be it what to do next if you have to decide where to produce your next batch of product, what to do next if you have heard about volcano eruption in the Philippines and how this impact you. So that's the purpose of visibility. Is not chase for the sake of visibility, is really to help you make the best decision so that ultimately you fulfill customer expectation, revenue expectation, and thus shareholder expectation.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Thank you very much, Roxanne. Massimo, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. As Roxanne mentioned, it's a broad topic. Fully aligned with Roxanne just mentioned. Let me add a little bit of perspective from highly regulated business, which is the chemical industry. For us, it's very important to have a really end-to-end visibility, really including also our partners throughout the end-to-end supply chain or value chain, if you want. We need to understand exactly what our supplier are seeing happening in the market, what our customers are seeing happening in the market. If you look at the curve of a disruption in the supply chain recently, you see a huge disruptions in the last few years. Let's say starting with the pandemic and then the geopolitical tensions in Europe, in the Middle East, create a lot of disruptions. So it's important to have a better and more operational visibility with your partners is paramount to anticipate which is the trend in the market that you're playing with. I'm talking from a company which is operating both in B2B and B2C business, so it adds a layers complication, and then be able to anticipate or mitigate as much as possible the disruption so that you can have stock in place if you see something happening, or build proactively so stock in place, so understanding exactly how your distribution network works, how your logistic partners work. Logistics has been under a lot of disruption in the last few years, I would say, starting 2021, 2022 after the pandemic. So really visibility for us is really understanding the whole partners end-to-end chain, what they see in their own markets, how they react, so they can have a comprehensive approach in the industry.
Okay, thank you very much. Anil? Make sure to unmute.
Partly whatever Roxanne and Massimo said. In addition, I mean, when I talk to this in context of what I am looking at, so for me, supply chain visibility is about visibility of alternates to my established supply chains, which are segmented to a few areas or regions in APAC, and knowing the actual visibility of alternate hubs or suppliers or supply chain locations for production services which I'm producing and making. And one of my constant effort and that of my team is to make visible the invisible, what we don't know. So I mean, knowing what we don't know today, that is external to us. Within the organization, supply chain visibility is, I mean, often the organizations get led by manufacturing and marketing function. The visibility of supply chain is by influencing the outcomes in terms of business, in terms of efficiency, productivity, by supply chain intervention. So, which is by, of course, QCD remains important, but when you contribute significant, measure it and publish it, there is an enhanced visibility which eventually helps your supply chain also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Tony?
Oh, thank you, Max. Look, I'll add maybe a little bit of color to what my colleagues have highlighted. In my view, in addition to the good points already spoken, supply chain visibility is really about full transparency and accessibility of data, of insight, of intelligence, of information, and of course, physical product. But I think in addition to that, it's also got to do with how does that drive specific decisions, specific actions from a business point of view. And maybe to conclude, the notion around supply chain visibility is the ability to know it as it happens, or know it before it happens, or anticipate, and that can only come through a broader level of visibility from an end-to-end supply chain point of view, from the farm to chopstick, or from the farm to dinner plate, and vice versa. That's my perspective. Over to you, Max.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll get James also to maybe give his opinion about it. Yeah, hi, James, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was using a kind of body check as an example. That visibility for me, that firstly you must have a full visibility about, a full knowledge about whether each part of the body are healthy, are good enough. Then based on this kind of knowledge, you can decide what you need to do now to improve your body if you have some kind of problems in special part of the body. And the third one, that you also need to have the visibility or technology to know if you keep doing and improving at this page, what will be going on? Will you be going better, or it will something you needed to change some part of in future? So that is for me. You needed to have this kind of ability to tell you what happened before and what you need to do now and what you need to do in future. That is for me the visibility.
Okay, thank you very much. Sachin?
Thank you, Max. I think most of the things my colleagues have already spoken about, but to iterate few of the points, I think the end-to-end visibility is often synonymously used with terms like control towers, be it logistics control tower or supply chain control towers. And I think these are the terms which organizations are using. And why only supply chain? I think because supply chain is the one function which cuts across multiple different functions, be it marketing and sales, be it procurement, be it production, logistics, distribution, etc. So that's why the importance of supply chain comes into the picture. As per me, there are two main thought processes behind having an end-to-end visibility. First is having the right amount of data at the right time to ensure we are able to take the decisions mostly proactively, if not then reactively, because either ways we need to proceed and take the decisions. The second is most of the organization struggles with single source of data. And because our systems are not connected, marketing systems doesn't talk with the planning doesn't talk with the logistics. So in order to ensure that we have a single source of truth within the organization, the supply chain visibility comes into the picture. And this is, I think, which comes across, stitches the different elements together and have a single layer bird's eye view to the organization of what are different levers are, what are different parameters performing, to ensure that we have a streamlined decision making on the basis of this available data.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have Tigo as well. Tigo, are you still with us? If you can switch on your camera and just comment on this, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here, but I don't know what happened with my camera.
Okay, no problem. We can hear you.
Okay.
No worries.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. So I think there's a lot of the um, definition about the visibility of in the supply chain. But to me, it's really about how we able to connect all the functions of the supply chain, so from the supplier, from manufacturing, and then to our customer, and then how easy for us to see the flow of the information, the products, and then all related to the product itself, to make sure that we able to provide all the information to our stakeholders. So I think this is the part of the this is a part of the provide all the required information to stakeholder to take the decision for moving forward. So that's my definition of the supply chain visibility.
Okay, thank you, Tigo. Okay, Stephen, what do you think?
Sure. For me, probably three words: risk identification, risk engagement, and risk management. So for me, visibility and transparency is really about identifying where the risks are from a social and an environmental perspective, which is where I'm coming from. But it's also about risk engagement. It's about being prepared to not just take that information, but also be prepared to engage with it constructively, particularly where you are working with areas of risk in these areas. And I think thirdly, then that just leads to management. How are you going to continue to manage that risk over time, and in order to mitigate it, to reduce it, and to collaborate with those suppliers. And I think so for me, probably the key word and all that would be then responsibility. It's visibility with purpose in order to take responsibility and actually in a constructive way.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have some questions already. Let me take them as they come, because otherwise we're not going to be able to take all of them in this session. Maybe we'll start with the first one. What is the hardest part of supply chain visibility? And then someone is asking, suppliers beyond tier 1 or 3PL? So what is the hardest part, do you think, in supply chain, in achieving some kind of supply chain visibility? Anybody would like to respond?
Yeah, I can start maybe, and then my colleagues can complement. I think when you talk about suppliers, whether it's 3PL or a different type of organization, there are probably two parts that I would like to highlight. The first one is trust. I think data, insight, information, or big data as we call it, is becoming diamond. It's becoming the new crude oil, if you like. It's becoming gold. So without sufficient level of trust, sometimes it can be a challenge to really ensure that there's a high degree of transparency of that. The second piece is the level of technological investment. If the organizations are not bold enough to go forward or press forward in terms of being decisive in making the right calls to invest in the right technological settings to generate such information with real time, to Roxanne's earlier point, it becomes quite challenging for organization to operate. Those are the 2 points from our side. Max?
Okay, thank you, Tony. Yeah, anybody else on the hardest part?
Maybe.
Max, I think one of the topics which Tony touched upon is the technological investment. I think very accurate. With technological advancement, I think the challenges comes into picture when the organizations get acquired or merged. So I think the systems between the two organizations necessarily don't talk with each other. And I think that sometimes become a bottleneck in terms of implementing the visibility practices, right? So I think that is one of the most common mistakes that organizations happen to make, is looking not thoroughly in the integration from the systems perspective. I think the second challenge is sometimes the organizations treat visibility as a one-off project, but as per me, it is a continuous journey, and attain maturity from data to insights to automation, right? So this is a continuously evolving process, and this needs to have a dedicated focus, because these are the times when supply chain visibility or control towers are used not only for decision making, but also for strategic reviews, driving meaningful information internally as well as with the partner ecosystem.
So, Max, I would add on that, after the technology investments are done, after the integration modules are built, I see there still remains a lag of flow of information among functions, people, intra-organization as well as outside, and so you still see Excels and mails floating where workflows can work. So large part of it is pretty behavioral, which affects a lot of other modules, but also supply chain visibility. So when I see an organization still, for one information where a shipment has to move, there are 25 mails still flow, while with an API interlink, this could be a one-line item to manage for different people. So I see that there are habits which is more to do with people who work on the system despite learning and wasting their energies on learning that. Uh, the uh, the investment in transactional information exchange is far higher than making the system do the transaction and working on strategic side of supply chain.
Okay, we'll talk about a bit more about technology a little bit later as well. Anybody else on that question? Yeah, feel free.
Maybe 2 to 3 points on top. So I guess technology is one thing, but you have to recognize that in our network of partners, and so to the question, it's not only 3PLs, it's also your supplier. The level of maturity might be fairly different. And for some of them might be super easy to connect electronically. For others might be more difficult because they might not have the landscape. So you have to be flexible in working as well with uploading and downloading Excel file if the need has it. So I think that's one aspect. Second aspect is a question of nomenclature. Because if you want to do a end-to-end tracing in your platform, you need to make sure you call the same the same way in all the different nodes, or you have easy translation along the line. And then I would like to re-emphasize the topic mentioned by Tony about trust and relationship, because ultimately, yeah, sometimes we all crave for visibility, but there is, for somebody in that chain, there is a risk in being too visible. And if you don't overcome that fear by making sure that having the right KPI or the right mindset, that visibility is for the benefit of the overall chain and not only for abuse and manipulations, and you will never make good progress in visibility, even though you might have the best technology.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
Maybe just building on Roxanne. I was about to make the kind of same point. Just let me build on the last one due to my previous experience. That's exactly as you say, to your point, to Tony's point. We're talking system, but we're talking also the content, which is data. And for also when you have to deal with like small to mid-size companies, data for them is a competitive advantage. So there's kind of a resistance to share it because it's not a one-to-one relationship. So I had experience in my previous organization where their data they were supplying also competitors, so they want to play the game, if I may say so, and not sharing completely I'm talking suppliers right now, the data set, because for them was a kind of competitive advantage to play the game with their customers. So building on the trust topic, if you need to build trust, you need to build a real commercial strong relationship with your suppliers in order to be able to gain more visibility on their data, because sometimes there's an advantage for them not to be completely transparent.
Okay, yeah. James, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, related to what Simon mentioned about. I think because when we talk about supply chain, depending on different industry and company, I think for Chanel, for us, and then that means that from the sales order and from the planning, from the message to the material suppliers, to the manufacturing of the plants, and then we deliver it to the 3PL to doing the warehousing. Then we to go to the transporter to deliver it to the customers. So I think it's really a very long, supply chain, and also we engage a lot of different organizations. So I think first of all that is really the mindset that are the organization really aware of the importance of full supply chain end-to-end visibility. This is very important that the organization really aware everyone will have the same mindset, and then they really have the determination to build up that. I think technology wise is okay because for like us, we have a very strong transport control tower. But I think if we're talking about end-to-end supply chain, you needed to connect it and also with the right translation among the different language between the planning, sales language, planning language, manufacturing language, and the transport language. It will take time. So it's really depending on how the organization management teams really have the awareness and have the determination to invest how much resources, how much expertise to make it happen. So I think that is the utmost important. If with that, I think take time we can build up, but I think without that, even we manage different function team to do it, I think it still will be very piece by piece, very difficult to have a very well integrated end-to-end supply chain visibility.
Good point. Yeah. Thank you very much, James. Yeah, Stephen.
Sure, I think one of the greatest challenges is really moving from risk, which is predictive and hypothetical in nature, and then actually moving towards the more concrete and specific. And I think it's one of the key challenges for companies, particularly in areas of risk around human rights, is to actually drill down far enough, and this is where trust and relationship does play a very key role, to go from like a risk profile for a certain supplier based on where they're based, where they're located, and the industry, the sector they're in, to actually going down and drilling down in a more sort of concrete, specific, and in many ways a relational way, to actually get the information you need, which is not necessarily going to be available based on data sets, for example.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on because we have more questions on the Q&A, and I'd like to take them. There was a question, someone mentioned it earlier. This is a question from Janine. She's asking, for highly confidential industry like semiconductor, how do we balance between supply chain visibility and confidentiality? That's a good question. Anybody would like to take this question?
I think since it's referred to semiconductor, maybe I can take the question. So I don't think confidentiality is a privilege of semiconductors. So, and that's where the trust topic comes about. So I think we need to make sure we have first, within your own premises, we are clear as of which data we want to be part of this visibility and which data we don't want to be part of this visibility. So could be, for example, capacity. If I refer to semicon, capacity is trade secret. So you might not want to publish capacity all over the place. So you might want to have the capacity view within your premises, but not outside. Whereas your stock, obviously you need to share it with your 3PL. Anyways, they see it by themselves. So I think you have to manage this confidentiality topic or this as part of a discussion of what is important to be visible along the chain for the best decision and what could be endangering you if you are too transparent. As Massimo said before, there is always for any partner in the chain some leverage to be made, and thus a threshold as of how much visible you want to be. So I think that should be part of the original discussion when you engage in a project around supply chain visibility. That should be part of the guiding principle as of what it is, what is the perimeter, what is the scope, what do we want to exchange with whom. And this also discuss openly with all your partners along the line. Besides, of course, all the contractual topic about NDA and all the contract you usually have in place so that the partner in the chain are also not disclosing your proprietary information.
Okay, thank you, Roxanne. Anybody else? Yeah.
Maybe Max, if I'm absolutely fully aligned with Roxanne. What needs to be mentioned here is also in highly regulated. So the question mentioned semiconductor. I was mentioning one of my points before, but also the chemical industry is very highly regulated. So whenever we exchange information, there was an overarching framework or IP protected contract. So give you an example from a current company or a previous company. Paint ingredients are the full paint formulation is IP protected, so we're not allowed to share broadly what's in our paints. Same for what was happening before I was working in DuPont. So the Nomex and Kevlar, just to name a couple of famous products, are very high, patent protected. So when you have to share data, you also be careful that your counterpart is involved with the IP framework protection, so that you can share freely, but it's not to the broader public, if I may say so. So 3PLs or other suppliers don't know that. So confidentiality from that sense is very really have to deal with your patent framework protection that you have to build in place.
Okay, thank you, Massimo. Yeah, anybody else on the balance between visibility and confidentiality? Yeah, James. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a kind of a tip, because I had an experience with some of the company that I think first of all, supply chain visibility. The major purpose is that to let the teams, the supply chain team, to really have the visibility to access the potential risks and plan and make a decision. So I think the visibility should be there and it should be full. But I think depending on the different people, you can use a classified user and with the limited authority to the different peoples. That may be one of the ways. But I think from the bottom line that you still need to have the full visibility to see how it's going on from the corporation wise. That is my suggestion.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah. Stephen?
Yes, I think from my perspective, it comes down to some industries are more it's more critical, as has been mentioned, in terms of confidentiality. For example, doing some work with companies that work for the defense, for example, in defense and providing technologies, for example. So there's confidentiality is very high, and therefore the supply chain needs to be, in a sense, very short and tight. In order to protect the interests of those who are providing those services, those goods and services, but also to make sure that they're not being exposed to high-risk countries from a security point of view. And I think probably the other point is just the extent to which transparency also could be a decommercializing dynamic. That if some suppliers, you may be concerned that in terms of, depending on the level of transparency, if they're providing too much information regarding who they're supplying from, then that could actually, that they might be compromised in terms of the contractual relationship that they have, that they might be overtaken in the attempt to shorten the supply chain.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah. Anybody else on the confidentiality aspect of it?
So,
Yeah.
while for the buyers and sellers, I mean, a lot of semiconductor manufacturers own intellectual property, which they claim to be selling in form of components or products. There are some infringements which are actually they're not their own designs, or the design exists and the owner of patents or intellectual property is somebody else. So I've seen instances where claims come from third parties, and while writing contracts, buyers and sellers need to agree that buyer is protected against any is indemnified from any third party claims later. So I see that while dealing with products which have components as semiconductors or semiconductors directly, this part of the contract protects the buyer, and the supply chain professionals need to address this while engaging with the manufacturers or sellers. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil. Yeah. Tony, you wanted to add something?
Maybe I will not elaborate what my colleagues have said, but I think the two things that I just wanted to talk about is, firstly, any organization, not only in the semiconductors environment, any organization will always have sensitive data or sensitive information. If I talk about from a manufacturing point of view, as the largest food manufacturing company in the world, of course, every brand is different, every product is different, every portfolio is different, and the information, therefore, is unique to that particular sort of brand. And there's a certain element of competitive advantage on any product. So the sensitivity will always be there, irrespective of the type of the organization. Having said that, though, what's really fundamental is, what's the audience? What's the maturity of that particular audience? to be able to navigate and manage certain type of information in a responsible way. This is really what at least we need to establish across various organizations when there are certain uncertainties or uncertainty levels, or perhaps lack of confidence to make data or information transparent or visible to the audience. That's the second point I wanted to highlight. Back to you, Max.
Thank you. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe we have more questions. So I want to continue taking those questions as they come. We have a question from Arindam, which relate maybe to this. What about industry and organization culture, ability to embrace the idea that everything is being monitored and tracked? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So how about the culture around supply chain visibility? What's your view on this? Yes,
Maybe I can go first, Maxis. I think it is very important to have stakeholder engagement, stakeholder collaboration across functions for which we are building this visibility forum, right? To have their buy-ins is very, very important. I think that kinds of build the trust among the stakeholders of different functions, and then it sets the platform for success for as an organization. So I think stakeholder buy-in, stakeholder engagements, regular feedback mechanisms to see whatever changes we have implemented or built as an organization, how are those kind of driving access. So let's say if we have been able to track forecast accuracy, what kind of improvement is it driving in our inventory levels, service improvements, etc. So that we are able to build a ecosystem of trust across our partners. So that kind of ecosystem actually helps in maintaining or nurturing the change to a larger extent.
Good point. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else on the culture side of it?
Yeah,
the purpose. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Roxanne. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the purpose of this supply chain visibility should be articulated to all, so that the fear of maybe being monitored is not at individual level that we want to monitor the person, we want to monitor the flow of goods. So I think that could also help to alleviate some sort of fear or resistance. Besides, again, so this is within the perimeter of the company. If you start working with your supplier, it's again the relationship and the trust we talked about before, where there should be a common purpose built around this project about building supply chain visibility, so that each party has a benefit, not a drawback.
Yeah. Okay, Tigger. Yeah, you wanted to comment?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I think this is great questions about the organization's culture. To me, it's really important about the mindset of the employee. In this case, I agree with the Roxanne that we are not monitoring about the people itself, but we are monitoring about the process, how the information is product, and all related to the business flow from our suppliers to us and then to our customer. This is about the mindset that we have to make sure that all the employee, particularly in the supply chain area, need to understand on how we have to see the transparency, traceability, as well as the visibility to make sure that everything transparent and then easy to take next step or decision what we're going to do based on that kind of information. The good thing in here is I'm not only talking about organization. Yes, I think it will be implemented in our organization, but also if we have very good in our internal organization, we're able to add large this to our suppliers, because typically, yes, it really depends on the how maturity our relationship with our suppliers. But if our relationship with our supplier only transactional or already partnership, this will be different. But again, if we are able to convince our suppliers to really able to trust to us and then working as a big team, make a collaboration, and then to make the visibility from end to end, that would be good. Then the basic, to me personally, the basic culture in here is about we have to have a good mindset about this visibility. So.
Yeah, thank you. Stephen, you wanted to add something?
Sure. Very much appreciate the perspective, of getting visibility just based on terms of the movement and the status of goods. But in relation, for example, to human rights, we are actually interested in what's actually happening with people, and then that then ties to culture. So the question there is, particularly if you're conducting a third-party audit or a social compliance audit, you are wanting to ask questions that are about the experience of people and their working conditions, and questions around workplace health and safety, for example. So it really comes down, and that's all therefore in alignment then with the spike, if you like, the growing amount of directives that are emerging around human rights and environmental due diligence. For example, the latest being the corporate sustainability due diligence within the European Union. So those kind of questions are emerging and will actually raise questions of how do we actually protect people in the process of our investigations into workplace exploitation in certain settings, and how do we then set that up in a way so that people are not in a sense penalized particularly for their participation if they were to be approached to ask questions about their experience.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. All right, so we have more questions. Let's take them again, and I'll appreciate if you guys can respond quickly on each of them so we can take as much as we can. There's a question for you, Roxanne. This is from Louis, who's asking, you mentioned that supply chain visibility involved knowing the location of materials at your supplier as well. Can you please elaborate on how deep into supply chain would you like to have visibility on?
All right. So, and this only engage my my view. I know some of my colleagues here might have a different perspective. But if we talk about visibility for the purpose of risk management or crisis management, my opinion is we should not go too much beyond our direct supplier relationship. Because we have every link in the chain has its own responsibility. And thus, we rely on our supplier to manage their own supplier, not for us to start managing supplier where we have no direct relationship. And this remind me, sorry, Max might take a little bit of time, but during the Fukushima disaster, I was working for a company, and we started to look at our direct material, and then we started to look at how those direct material what was the ingredient of those direct material, and go beyond what was our responsibility. And then we got tremendous fear because we were not in control of all this, instead of really relying on the relationship we have with the supplier. So to me, visibility is for your direct supplier, and they manage the rest. That's that's where I put the perimeter.
Okay, thanks, Roxanne. You guys agree with this?
Well, I think that on one hand, I do accept and expect that suppliers are given the opportunity to self-disclose, particularly in areas around ESG, for example, human rights, environmental due diligence. There was a question put in the chat also around how do we actually connect this to raw materials, but I think some of the reporting mandates and directives that are coming out are actually expecting that companies will actually go beyond direct suppliers, and that perhaps maybe in collaboration, hopefully in collaboration with suppliers, to actually support them as they also conduct due diligence, because whilst it may be the case that probably the best and first and foremost the best way forward is to actually engage with direct suppliers, but perhaps in order to satisfy due diligence, we need to actually work with those suppliers and help them build their capacity to actually go drill down further, and that will then actually help us to identify where the risks are, because when it comes to the kind of risk we're looking at, it's not often going to be necessarily in the supplier that we're actually relating to. So in order to achieve that, we will need to actually go beyond those direct effects.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, Tony?
Look, I hear Roxanne. Thank you for your thoughts, and of course, Stephen. Great comment. My perspectives, at least if I look at it from a food manufacturing point of view, it's pretty much from an end-to-end point of view. So our direct suppliers, we understand how they operate, but I think when you go to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, perhaps it's as a manufacturing company, it gives you a different leverage on how to help really across the upstream sort of supply chain organization. So that level of visibility, that level of integration, that level of partnership, absolutely fundamental. Now, this is from a supply chain point of view, but if you talk about the downstream, if you like, same thing, different markets, different countries, depending on the dynamics. You've got modern retailers, you've got distributors, you've got wholesalers, you've got an extended network to get to the consumer, to the shopper, if you like. Now, without having the appetite to go up to the point where the consumer is picking that particular product, which involves a different set of organizations, then the end-to-end transparency or visibility that I spoke about earlier on today, from the farm to chopstick or from the farm to dinner plate, vice versa, does not become a reality. So at least from where I stand, having a broader perspective is absolutely fundamental to really raise the bar in terms of the importance of the supply chain visibility. That's my view.
Okay, good point. Yeah. Anybody else on this?
I think many a times your direct suppliers are very capable of managing their supply chains. So, sometimes that becomes a standard when you uplift your supply chain over a period of time. But more often than not, you will have a supply chain base which is unorganized, or they're not so capable, as Tony mentioned. And if you leave it only onto your direct suppliers, it doesn't work out, and you don't go past the glitches, and you keep hopping from one to other. So it becomes very necessary to organically to make this inorganic organic and go down to those supply chain and work with those to create the kind of capacity, especially in a business which is expanding, fast expanding, need of supply chain remain dynamic. So that's my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else quickly? Yeah, Sachin.
Yeah, I think as per me, it all depends upon the maturity of the organization, how mature you are with respect to your supply chain processes, visibility, and the control towers. I think for the beginners or the organizations which just getting into this, managing internally will be more sufficient. I think once the organization kind of matures themselves, they can take this initiative of going upstream to have end-to-end network map. So I think it all depends on what is the end state that organizations want to achieve.
Okay, thank you. All right, so James, quickly.
Yes, I might take it that for sure. I think you needed to have some sort of visibility, because the upstream suppliers impact the safety of your own supply chain, right? So I think depending on your industry, we needed to work out a few key criteria. You mandatory to have that visibility from your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then you build it with the kind of session man about the digital tools like a control tower. For sure, directly, tier 1 you must have the whole, but the tier 2 you must have a few key criteria. That is my take. So ensure that you are really safe in terms of supply chain.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we have more questions. We're not going to have enough time to cover all of them, but I just would like to maybe finish up with one question which I think is interesting, which relate to KPIs. So George is asking, what are those realized benefits or KPIs as a result of supply chain visibility? Which one do you think? Cost savings percentage, customer service improvement? Which one do you think which comes to your mind right away, which is immediate and maybe easy for you to realize by having this kind of visibility? Anybody? And we have just 3 minutes, so keep your answer very short.
Yeah, from my point of view, Max, I think that the customer service it will be improved. It's because it's very simple because we understand where the product is, we understand what kind of the informations, and then in the end of the day, we're able to provide better service to our customers. So I think in the end of the day, by having the visibility, it will be improved significantly in the customer service level. So that's my
Okay.
quick answer.
Great. Thanks, Tigo. Anybody else on those KPI?
So I would say customer service because that's a lot of feed in. That feedback is a lot of feed into various other KPIs. So if we keep customer at center of what we do, rest gets fixed eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, Neil, just Massimo here. RT for sure is going to be the ultimate KPI, which is the benefit for a better visibility and also put inventory. So you can optimize and streamline the inventory, which is relevant to, let's say, second tier KPIs. You probably be able to improve your supply planning accuracy and your demand planning accuracy as well. But OTIF and inventory for me are the two main ones that can benefit for better visibility.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
For me, I think the whole lead time for from the order placed to the delivery to your customer. Yes, maybe it's also related to customer service, but I think it will measure how efficiency will be improved from the full visibility. Yeah, the lead time from the day when order received to the date you can deliver to the customer. Yeah, delivery date.
Okay, Sachin?
I think it is the lead times, the OTIF levels, and again the cost. But I think there are more intangible benefits apart from the ones which we commonly talk about. So one thing is like whatever misses that happen in the upstream process, let's say demand planning. If we have end-to-end visibility, we can course correct that into supply planning. So I think all these ultimately result in either cost, service levels, or lead time. But I think it also adds another level to our planning dimension. So that is one thing which I wanted to add.
Makes sense, yeah. Roxanne, Stephen, just to wrap up.
No, I think it's quite already covered. Service level, inventory. Could be maybe if you talk about it as a little bit less tangible, your resilience. If you ever measure resilience, as you might have opportunity to identify your weakest link in the whole chain.
Makes sense, yeah. Stephen?
Yeah, I was going to mention resilience. I think, it's amazing how many companies actually don't know their suppliers. And so I think actually having visibility actually opens the door to relationship, to partnership, and to actually building greater sense of trust, which leads to resilience, and then for identifying ways in which you can actually work more constructively with your suppliers. So it's a bit more intangible rather than a strict KPI.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So it's the end of, I made a promise that we'll wrap up before the end of the hour. We have other questions. We won't be able to take them, but no worries. We will save those questions and make sure that we take them during this discussion. We'll probably do another session on supply chain visibility, and we'll invite you again, and we can then cover those questions and many other topics that we have prepared. We prepared a lot of them. We didn't get to cover most of it. We didn't talk a lot about technology. That was another interesting aspect of it. But no worries, again, we will do another discussion on this topic. Thank you again for sharing your insight. Thank you, Roxanne, Massimo, Tony, Anil, Stephen, James, Sachin. We also have Tigor, and Ravi was here at some point, but he disappeared. I don't know what happened to him, but we'll invite you again. So thanks again for your insight, for sharing your experience, and on this great topic. Thanks to all the audience for asking all those questions. Thank you again, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.